All right. Good morning, community. Thanks for being a part of our Lacrosse Leadership Institute. As always, you know me, Ryan Berns, just trying to share the love of lacrosse, make sure that we understand how it can impact ourselves, the youth, anyone who loves the game, and look at what this game turns into as we continue to pursue and use the skills from it. Today, I've got a great friend, Rick Hurley. He's an ASU alumni, and I'll be asking him a couple questions just to share his story, what he's been up to, the impact he's had, not only professionally, but now he's giving back. And Rick, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about the scholarship that you have going on, because I think that's amazing. And we'll see where the conversation goes. But for starters, Rick, let us know, how'd you find lacrosse? What was that spark, and where did that go?
Yeah, so I think like some of your past guests, I got started pretty young. I grew up in Northern Virginia, so it's pretty big out there. This was, God, probably second grade, so a long time ago. My best friend in the neighborhood was playing, and I just kind of opted in for baseball as a default, like everybody else. And after a full year of just kind of hanging out in left field and not doing anything, I was as bored as my dad was, just watching me like pick clovers out in the outfield. So I changed it up and tried to go with my best bud Steve back then, and went to the tryouts, and I was actually terrible at it to start because he couldn't get the cradling thing down. But just like anything, practice, and then I turned into just absolutely loving it. And my dad, I think, liked it more than I did, just because he actually got to watch it, and he couldn't believe what you could do in the sport as far as just beating up on people. So I've always been a little bit big for my age, so I ended up playing defense most of the time. And I think he found it more entertaining than I, honestly, because he just laughed and just watched me beat up on kids. He had a blast watching. If you ask him today, he still laughs about it. And then my little brother followed. My little brother didn't mess around with baseball at all. He just went right into lacrosse. And so we're a lacrosse family now, and I have been since second grade. So it's a blast. I love watching it too. I wish it was more on TV more, but it's a fun sport, man.
Yeah, well, that's fun that you guys got involved starting in second grade, and I totally relate with that as parents getting more involved and being the crazy lax parents on the sideline and just loving the sport still. What would you say is the pinnacle that you had while you're playing, or if you did in coaching? What's the moment that stands out for you?
Honestly, I mean, I remember very little of like full games, but the one I do remember, and I was thinking about on the drive in today, we had just made the transition at ASU Lacrosse to go from like barely getting the top 25 to making some organizational changes to really make a push for, a pretty serious program, which, competes for national championships. And it was the first year of implementing those changes. And we had this brutal road trip, which we got kind of all circled on the calendar, where we were going to play two very good teams. And by the time we got to those away games, one was Michigan. For life of me, I can't remember the other one, but Michigan was the second game. Both of those teams, actually, when we got to them, were ranked number one. And because when we got to the first team, we beat them. And I can't remember the team or whatever. I remember nothing about that game. Maybe I got hit in the head too much. But the second, so they dropped from number one, and Michigan became number one, and they were going to go D1 the next year. And then the secret was out. Like, they were going D1. So we're playing the number one ranked team in their field house. They've never lost there. They're going D1 next year. And, we come in as like, I think we were ranked like 18, 19, something like that. And we ended up beating them just by beating up on them and beating them in their own place. So we beat two number one teams in 1 week. And I remember like every detail of that Michigan game. It was unbelievable. And it was one of those things where, like, individually, they were pretty good. But we were just playing as a team and, helping and sliding and very aggressive. And honestly, I think they might have been a little bit intimidated by the time second quarter rolled around. They were just like getting beat up. So I mean, that was a lot of fun. I remember going back on the bus and we were like, holy, we just beat 2 number 1 teams in 1 week on the road. And, you know, that was kind of like ASU is here to compete. And honestly, if you look back at that, like, I don't think we've dropped below that ranking since, because we've gotten better and better. And then, I mean, for the guys that were on the team when we weren't a top 25 team, to making changes to get us elevated to the point where we could go on the road and beat 2 number 1 teams in 1 week. It's kind of like a MCLA wake-up call, like ASU is here to stay. So that game is vividly in my head. One of the highlights of being on team, period.
Oh, I love hearing that. And obviously I love the foundation you laid down for myself, because my experience with ASU Lacrosse is it's go, 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 go. We're a community. We're here to win, though. FTD was something that we preach, and that's just total domination. And I know it's impacted my life. Do you feel like playing lacrosse has made an impact in what you do now professionally?
Yeah, I mean, empirically, factually, my business partner now was my first boss in Colorado, and he straight up told me I was looking for ex-athletes, and the thing that stood out on my resume to him was the fact that I was the captain of the ASU lacrosse team, and pretty sure I got hired, or at least an interview on that alone. And, you know, it was even today, you know, we look for athletes when we look to hire, just because you got to have some kind of competitive nature in what you do. And, you know, even though you're not playing lacrosse every day, or football or basketball or baseball every day, like it spills over to professional life, and the fact that you don't want to lose, you're competitive, you know what it's like to maybe get knocked back a bit, and you know yourself well enough to, you know, fix it and go forward and learn from it, and really, you know, get the fire under your ass, and just, this is life, and you're going to get beat down a little bit, you're going to come back, you're going to win, you're going to compete. Like, if it's a sales goal, if it's a task you're given, whatever, like, I think you go crazy if you don't approach it as a little bit of like, I'm going to get it done better than that guy or that girl. And, you know, it's in your DNA if you do it long enough, honestly. Like, every single thing I do now, I'll make up, like, competing with somebody. They might not even know they're competing with me. It's just like, I kind of have to win. So it's something that, you know, since very, very early on, you know, I played lacrosse longer than I played any other sport. I played a lot of football too, but I mean, it's just in the DNA, not to lose. So,
do you think that competitive nature is the biggest skill that you gained growing up using sports, or what would you say is the biggest skill that you've garnered from lacrosse and sports?
Yeah, I definitely the competitive nature. Whether you're born with that or not, you know, I'm not sure. My 4-year-old most competitive thing I've ever seen. But, you know, but I think, you know, when you have, like, so if you're on the field and it's tie game, last minute of the game, attackman takes you behind the goal, you know, it's 1-on-1, your whole team's watching, you got fans watching, you know, it's ISO, it's me against him. I'm tired as hell. My mouth, I'm barely able to breathe, like, but you can't let him beat you. I'm sure I've gotten beat, but you shouldn't let him beat you. And, you know, it's like finding that second or third level of, you didn't know it was there, number one. And then two, it's like, it is the best feeling ever when you win that one-on-one. And it's different now, obviously, in the real world. I'm not like beating up on people in the office space, but I mean, it's like, when your back's against the wall, you don't have a choice. You've burned all the ships. You have to succeed. There's something in there that's coming from sports and lacrosse in particular, because it's such a team sport, but it can also be a very, very one-on-one sport, as you know, in that situation, you know, not to get beat. So it's something that just kind of built in there. And when your back's against the wall, you really don't have a choice but to succeed. You know you can, because you've done it before and in many things in your life. And one of the questions that we ask interviewers, and I've been asked many times as I got to where I am now, it was like, you know, tell me a time when most thing you're proud of, and tell me a time you failed and how you overcame it and fixed it. And, you you know, those are questions that tell you more about, you know, the person you're interviewing, or a chance for you to let the person interview you know really who you're talking to. They want a real world experience, and they're kind of looking into, okay, how does this person think? Has this person really been met with any kind of adversity in their life? How do they deal with overcoming that? And as lacrosse, just going back to that ISO situation, you know, that happens a couple times a game, but I mean, there's just a different level when you have that, you know, for that many years. It just kind of changes the way you think about stuff.
Yeah. So Rick, for yourself, tell us about a time that you failed, something that you're proud of. Can you answer those questions in terms of your experience?
I mean, obviously, I'm proud of what I've built. You know, we can get into that later, but you know, the failing.
Now.
Let me do the failing first. The failing was I was not doing well in my first job on the phones. I was mumbling a lot. I was saying, "Hey, my name is Rick." People thought my name was Greg. It wasn't starting out great. So I went back and I really listened to how I sounded on the phone, because I was selling mortgages of a Quicken Loans on the 101 over there. It was my first real job in the middle of a recession, an economic real estate recession, awesome enough. But, you know, I went back and listened, like watched game tape, right? And I'm like trying to find out why I'm not having any success. I'm making more phone calls than anybody. Like, why am I not hitting these numbers? And I couldn't understand myself. I was like, okay, I really got to slow down. And what I think, you know, I'm from the East Coast. I talk a little bit faster. Not everybody I'm talking to is following what I'm saying. So I really have to slow down. My wife still makes fun of me all the time because I still mumble when I'm in like comfortable situations. But, you know, I watched the game tape. I learned from it. I said, okay, I got to make some changes to my sales approach. I have to mirror better. I have to really connect better from the very first 4 seconds I got someone on the phone. I got to know who I'm talking to where I turned that into becoming the number one for my tenure in before I left Quicken just a couple months later. And then that turned into like a master's class in how to have thick skin and sell to people, for really what turned into a career in, you know, quote unquote sales. I mean, people, they're buying you. They want to know that they trust you and like you. And if they can't understand you, it's not happening, right? So that was like the first thing. I mean, I was like started my job, wasn't doing well. I was like, oh crap, this is hard. But then I fixed it and then turned around and really, you know, had the sales record to move to Colorado with my then girlfriend, now wife, and meet one of my business partners now, who, like I said, hired me because I had some experience he was looking for, but he also saw the fact that I had lacrosse on my resume. And then, you know, got in there and proved myself there. And then, you know, the rest is history, as they say, with, you know, never burning bridges. Like, you know, that was I worked with him for less than a year before I got laid off on the first day of my honeymoon because Wells Fargo closed the entire department. And I said, well, I guess we won't do that helicopter trip around Maui.
Oh man!
But you know, they had you treat everybody, you know, well. You don't burn any bridges. And then, you know, I went to J.P. Morgan Chase, and they went to Wells Fargo Advisors. And then 5 years later, just because of the relationships that were built, you know, I get a call from them saying, "Hey, we think you'd be really good at this. Why don't you come join us at Heirloom Wealth Management?" And that's what I do now. And you know, the rest it was just up from there as far as just having good relationships built from, you know, stacking on each other. You know, the best advice I give kids graduating now is like, you know, you may love what you do right off the bat. Probably not. You're probably looking at 2 or 3 jobs in before you really have a career in essence. But everything you do up until that point is a relationship you're building for potential possible opportunity. And everything you do, I mean, I'm still proud. I still talk about what I did at my very, very first job. I just did, you know, about, you know, how it builds on itself. So, you know, it's just, it's crazy when you get out of school and you go into like, okay, and I'm in the real world. I got, you know, real bills to pay. I got a job to do well at. You got to have a bigger focus on that. Like it's an interview for every other big thing you're ever going to do in your life. You're going to get asked about it. You stop getting asked about college after your first job. Like they don't really care about college anymore after that first gig you've had in the real world. And you better have a success story there to point to. And who knows? I mean, the relationships like mine came back 5 years later and changed my life forever. So yeah, long answer. Sorry.
Well, it seems like, Rick, you've been able to use the skills from lacrosse to identify in the real world what's going on. I'm busting my butt. I'm hustling. I'm doing all the right things, but the results aren't what I want. And it sounds like you're able to break that down, identify it just like in film that we all do. And then from there, it sounds like you've just been on basically a slingshot firing into the atmosphere right now of real success.
Yeah, man. It's, yeah, I mean, find out what's holding you back, fix it, and go, you know?
And I know that you were captain on the ASU team. In terms of leadership, how has your leadership developed since then? And how would you define your leadership style?
Yeah, I mean, it was super important when I was managing a team at Chase. I was a branch manager there in my 20s for a while. It's just, you know, doing what you expect others to do, you know, leading by example, you know, doing what you ask them to do first. The examples of that were, you know, when I go into a branch and the bankers in the branch would, you know, maybe a little bit tentative about something I was asking them to do. And all it took was me going in, doing what I was asking them to do a couple of times, showing them what I was meaning by it. And then being, okay, if he can do it like that, then I can do it. And that was the thing, you know, here and why I have so much respect for my business partners, because when they told me to come over, they were like, listen, just do what we do and you'll succeed. And that sounds so easy, but like people just don't do it, right? Like your job, it's like, okay, do this. It's a numbers game, right? Like you call 1,000 people, 10 people are going to take you seriously. One person is going to buy. And then, you know, you go from there. It's a numbers game, right? So you can work to improve your numbers, but if you're not calling enough people to get back to those numbers, it's not going to work. So what I respected most about the move that I made from the banking, after, you know, showing those bankers, and every banker I ever worked with had their best year ever when I would sit in their office with them and actually do it. So when I got the opportunity to come over and become a financial advisor and do it, you know, kind of from the ground up again, you know, started with no book at all, had to go out and find my first dollar, just like you did. They were like, hey, just do this. It works. We did it. We'll show you what we did. Do it. You'll succeed, you know? And instead of being like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I had just done that. I've done that my entire life. Like, just, why would I change? It might be uncomfortable. I might feel awkward. You know, it might be a little bit, you know, new and just not comfortable for a lot of people. But if I really want to succeed, and I've got these two guys ahead of me that have just done it and telling me, do this and you will succeed, be an idiot not to do it, right? So I did it and I succeeded. So it's like, you know, it's pretty simple, and unfortunately not all that common. Try to change it, make their own tweak. Oh, things have changed. Oh, you did it so long ago. And then there's a little bit of truth to some of that. Maybe, you know, maybe it needs a small tweak, but if you're going to deviate a lot off of that plan that worked now, like 3 for 3, like maybe what needs to change isn't the plan. It might be your approach to it. So, yeah, it's just, you know, leading by example, doing what you're asking others to do. You know, they'll respect you for that. And then honest to God, genuine, I want you to succeed. Like I don't benefit if you lose. I want you to succeed. Here's how I benefit if you succeed. I'm on the same side of the table as you, whether that's a client or it's a mentor or a, you know, there's enough success in the world to go around. So even if you're not directly compensated for it, like it just comes back, you know, to you. Like it's just something good about, you know, helping someone out and then thinking like, you know, 10 years down the road, who's the most important person in your life professionally that helped you become what you are today? And, you know, if they wrote my name down, it'd be awesome. I may never know about it, but, you know, putting good stuff out in the world that comes back to you. And, you know, like I said, you know, in my life, it's come back full circle to the fact where, you know, my business partner, who I will spend the rest of my life working with, was a 10-month relationship at Wells Fargo. you just never know kind of who you come back to, in life. So you always want to throw the good juju out there, if you will, and try to help everybody you can. And even if, like I said, even if you're not like directly compensated for it, there's a lot of benefits that come with just helping people. And, you may or may not ever get paid back for it, but who cares? It just, honestly, it feels good to help people. So.
Yeah, and Rick, I can tell just how passionate you are about doing the right thing, setting the right example, being the guy who everyone's looking towards for that guidance, and being a beacon of doing the right thing. What keeps you motivated, or what are your passions right now outside of work?
Well, I've got 2 little girls, so I'm trying to figure out how the hell to raise 2 little girls, because I grew up with all boys and all boy cousins, and true story, my mom laughed her ass off when I told her I was having my second girl. So, just trying to provide the best life for them. My wife, she stays home, so, which is harder than what I do, I swear. But, providing, a life for them where, to a reasonable extent, anything they want to do, experience-wise, things-wise, if it's reasonable, we can do it. We can have those experiences with them. It's also about, it's not about the money. It's also about designing your life that you can spend the time, while they're young and have the flexibility to do it. It's one of the main reasons I got out of what I used to do, just because I'll never forget this. This is a tangent, sorry, but I was at Chase Bank, and I was a branch manager there, so I was having to deal with all like the crap that got bubbled up, right? And my wife Charlotte we had, I think Stella, my oldest, was maybe 3 or 4 months. They'd driven 20 minutes to come take me to lunch, and I had some customer in there. I just couldn't get him out of the office. He was very upset about something small. I still remember it. I won't talk about it, but I mean, it wasn't a big deal, and the guy just would not let me leave. So my wife drove all the way there. When you have kids, you'll know, getting a 4-month-old out of the house, prepped, scheduled, ready, so we can have like a nice lunch together. She drove all the way there, and I was like, sorry, I can't leave. This guy's yelling at me. I can't get out of here. Sorry, we'll take a rain check. And then I came home that night, and I was like, something's got to change. I can't do this and raise a family the way I'd like to, with the flexibility that I need, doing what I was doing. So I was really looking for something. Obviously, the money was important to do what you want to do, but more importantly than that, it's the flexibility to be able to, like, hey, I got to leave. I'm going to go have lunch with my family, and sorry, I'm not sorry, right? So, that's really the biggest thing, is designing a life that you want to live, and actually doing something about it, and designing it and building it and doing it. So now the fact, I hope your question was kind of like, what drives me outside of work. It's like, I want to have my kids look back when they're 20, 30 years old and be like, yeah, dad worked hard, but he was like always around, and their childhood is awesome because mom and dad were there. And, they had all the things, they did all the things they wanted to do. They've got lots of memories of fun stuff, and really just providing, I had a great childhood. I had nothing changed about my childhood. I just what I want for my kids is to have everything that they want to do. Not just, it's more about the experiences and the memories you build, not just the stuff. So hopefully when this damn pandemic ends, we can actually go have some fun again. I mean, it's little stuff. It's like, taking my kid out before it gets too hot, before I even go to work, and do this, take her out to practice on her bike before I leave for work. Like, you can't do that if you don't have flexibility. So, then I played golf on Friday and yesterday, and I'm playing again Friday. So, designing the life you want to live, man.
I love that. Designing the life that you want to live. Sounds like your family's such a big priority as well, and making sure that you're there for the family. That's something that I think is critical, and again, something where I think I'm designing it as well. So we're going to be in a place when eventually the family does come, I'll be in a similar position. Can you share a little bit more, though, with the community that we're talking to about how you give back to the community, the scholarships that you started up, and the part of being in the Alumni Association?
Yeah, so we made a conscious decision a couple of years ago that we wanted a good, a decent chunk of all of our proceeds to go back to charities in our community. And it's so the whole reason I'm in Colorado, you may or may not know this, but my wife's father passed away from lung cancer about 11 years ago. So after that first job at Quicken, the reason I came to Colorado was to be with him and help him, transition. So I actually moved in with my girlfriend's parents and helped him basically the last couple months of his life, and saw what that did. And obviously, to lose your dad at 24, I think she was, that just sucks. So, so when I'm looking around for things to do, I was in Rotary, I was in a couple other things, and just wanted to have more of an impact on something that was like close to me. So I was looking around. I was like, well, something my wife and I can both get behind was lung health, for a number of reasons. And I've got lots of relatives that, one thing or the other, you're not going to do very well without lungs, right? So, especially with what's going on now, holy crap. So what I did was I looked how to get involved with that. Ultimately, it's been a couple of years now actually, but I'm on the board of the Colorado Lung Association. So we do a lot with lung health in Colorado and cessation of some of the things that can cause lung cancer, and just promote active lung health. And that's been really, really rewarding, just to see kind of what we can do in the community with that, just some of the stories you have from that. So I give to that, obviously, as a board member a lot. And then I was approached by the ASU, I guess what do they call them, like the Sun Devils Club, whatever. It's I don't know. So I started, they needed an anchor for a scholarship, and I mulled it over, and it was like, we can commit to being the anchor for the scholarship that'll support Colorado athletes that want to go to ASU. And so it's kind of like a double motive there for me. Obviously, I want to help. And there's like 8 or 9 Colorado athletes right now that I help with. The hockey team has to be in the black before ASU Lacrosse has any chance of being D1. So there's kind of like a couple motives here for me. One, I saw this as a way to help ASU Lacrosse gain some insight into what it's going to take to get the ASU D1 status. 2, this scholarship, as I understand it, I can pivot it. I have to give more money, that's fine. I can pivot it towards specifically helping a Colorado kid go to ASU for lacrosse. And then really help the current team when this all calms down a bit, really partake in some of the resources that the D1 team has now. The D1 teams, like, they all have these get-togethers that, as a club team, you're just not going to. So that was my one ask from them, was that we get the men's team involved in some of that stuff. And then, as the nucleus is there for the scholarship, I mean, you need to fully endow a scholarship, you need about $800,000. So the nucleus we've started can be built on, in Colorado. Alumni can come in and build on it, and I'll keep adding and do it as we go. But the intent is to get some knowledge on what it's going to take for the ASU men's team to get there, and then help them when they get there, and then in the meantime make them feel more part of like the D1 atmosphere. So then I'm pretty excited about it. It's pretty interesting to see kind of like behind the scenes and the financials of some of that stuff. It takes a lot of money to run a team, and most of them don't actually make any money for the school, so it does have to come from fundraising. So but yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. And then I support a lot of other random charity. I was at Golfers Against Cancer. We sponsored that yesterday, and as you know, Ryan, in our industry, golf is a big big way to support things. So we support a handful, probably 5 or 6 different charities throughout the Denver area via galas and or golf charities that we do. But we it's a good chunk of money that we throw at being charitable, and it goes back to just feeling good about what you're doing professionally and personally, and what you have to say for yourself at the end of it all. So which if any of my teammates watch this, they're going to probably laugh because if you knew me back in college and you hear this, it's a little different probably. We'll see. I'm hoping the texts start rolling in here.
But that's amazing as well. Again, all our lives change. We know each other on the lacrosse field, and that's a very unique situation and a group of guys that no one's going to know you as well as those brothers that you have. And just on and off the field, you guys are together through thick and thin. And it lays down the foundation, though, for continued success and stories. And it seems like that those relationships have allowed you and propped you up to be successful where you are now, giving back, designing the life the way you want it to be. Rick, I've appreciated all the mentorship you've given me, so thank you for that. Is there any way that we can support you, maybe through the Lung Cancer Association, with your scholarship, anything else?
I mean, no, man, we're good. I mean, if you're in Colorado and you want to get after it, you know, when the pandemic comes, like we'll be doing happy hours in Colorado, some events to kind of collect some funds and some commitments to the scholarship. You know, the Lung Association, if you're in Arizona, they have one there as well. I mean, I would say the Lung Association has been impacted fundraising-wise just because we haven't been able to do anything for a while. So, you know, if you're inclined to go, you know, look them up in the state. Obviously, a lot going on with lungs right now. So, you know, hugely important. You can look them up, get involved in one of they have climbs and runs throughout the state, any state you're in. They have galas you're welcome to buy tickets to, but all that's kind of on hold right now. I know we have a run coming up, depends on the state you're in, but ours is in September, I believe. It might be a virtual run just to raise money and get out there and, you know, use your watch to kind of prove that you're being active with a team that's close to you outside, obviously. We got the Red Rocks here in Colorado, so we usually do a 5K up and down the Red Rocks.
Oh, cool.
But we get a lot of people out there, so it might not be the safest thing right now. So we've pushed that. We've pushed the gala. So fundraising right now for, you know, I know everyone's kind of hurting, but if you can spare a couple bucks, you know, the Lung Association and or, you know, scholarship we have going on would be, you know, obviously get hold of me if you want to get on the scholarship at all, but yeah, man, just looking for ways to give back. And, you know, it didn't have to be one of those two charities. Those are just what I picked, but pick something that's near and dear to you, because I promise you that fundraising in the cause that you care about this year is hurting. So, I mean, and there's people that work for those organizations too that, you know, are a little worried about their jobs. So I don't care what it is, what you care about. You know, it's all important, but just keep in mind that, you know, they're probably not having their best year ever right now. So looking in, maybe there's some way to help. Be awesome.
Well, that's a great sentiment, and I'll be sure to I've tagged you on this on Facebook, and I'll ultimately post it on YouTube. I'll put a tag and say check out, and maybe you can send me the link, or I'll look up the link for the Denver and Arizona chapters of the Lung Association, and
yeah.
And then on Facebook, you're tagged on it. So if anyone wants to talk with Rick about the scholarship, if you're in Denver, if you want to help support just students going to ASU and being given the opportunity to really grow as leaders, reach out to us as well. Rick, I really appreciated this. I'm going to end the live and give a quick call.
Thanks, bud. Later.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a good day, man.